Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the scheduled and tribal areas. Okay, this is a topic on which we have been discussing. All right, and basically within this series of the scheduled and the tribal areas. All right, these all are the subtopics that we have scheduled for the discussion, like the introduction part, like the introduction part. Thereafter, the scheduled areas in India and overview of it. Thereafter, the criteria for identification of scheduled areas. Thereafter, the constitutional provisions and the governance. Okay. Thereafter, the concerns related to the scheduled areas. Thereafter, the administration of scheduled areas. Thereafter, the scheduled tribes. Okay. Thereafter, the general concerns of the tribal community. Thereafter, the addressing the challenges. Thereafter, the significance of the indigenous communities. Thereafter, the problems are faced by the tribal groups. Thereafter, the conclusion. And thereafter, the administration of tribal areas. Okay. So these are the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion. If we talk about the topics that we have covered so far, so basically we have done with the introduction part and we have done with the scheduled areas in India and overview. Okay. The topic on which we have been discussing right now, or we can say we have just started in the previous lecture, that is the criteria for identification of scheduled areas. All right. That is the topic. The topics that we are remaining with, or we haven't started, these topics are the constitutional provisions and governance, concerns related to the scheduled areas, administration of scheduled areas, scheduled tribes, general concerns of the tribal community, addressing the challenges, significance of the indigenous communities, problems faced by the tribal groups, conclusion, and the administration of tribal areas. Okay, so this is the picture that we have created so far altogether. I hope that you have revised the previous lecture in the well enough manner before you have come for this lecture, as many times I have told you that is for your own benefit. If you are doing this, the thing will be in your favor. If you are not doing this thing, then thing will be in favor of the examiner. Okay, who do not want you to get passed. That is a simple meaning. Okay, that's why he designing the paper hard for you. In the previous lecture, in the topic of the scheduled and tribal areas, in the subtopic of the scheduled areas in India and overview, basically we have seen the special provisions and the autonomy. Okay, that is what we have seen. And basically in this we have seen the ADCs and the TACs. Okay, like we have discussed, the areas that are under the 6th schedule, areas that are under the 6th schedules, they basically having the autonomous district councils. Okay, it means that the ADCs or the autonomous district councils are not like a normal district councils. Why? Because they have been granted with some special powers in terms of the legislative powers, in terms of the executive powers. Got it? Like when we talk about the normal district councils, so however the normal district councils also having the some kind of autonomy. Okay, but the autonomy powers of the normal district councils in comparison with the autonomous district councils are not at par. Why? Because the legislative powers as well as the executive powers. The legislative means the power of making the rules and regulations. Executive means to implement the rules and regulations. The powers of legislative and the executive with the normal district councils are having somewhat of restrictions. While the autonomous district councils, because they are carrying the name autonomous itself, so the powers are some kind of autonomous and we can say the more and more granted powers. Okay, While when we talk about the TACs, the Tribal Advisory Councils, so these have been provided under the provision of the 5th schedule, and they are applicable to the 10 states of India that are mentioned in the 5th schedule. Okay. So the 5th schedule basically provides for the TACs, the Tribal Advisory Council. Okay. Within its name, you can see the advisory word here. Okay. That means that these councils are basically responsible for making the advices on the matters that are related to the welfare and advancement of the scheduled tribes in these areas. Okay. So that is what we have seen in the previous lecture. If we move forward, then we have seen the proposed expansion in the Kerala. Like in the year of 2015, the Kerala government proposed to notify at least 2,133 habitations. Habitations basically are residential areas. 5 gram panchayats along with 2 wards. Okay. And these all were present in the 5 districts of Kerala. And what was the proposal? What was the offer of the Kerala government? Like the Kerala government wants to notify these areas as the scheduled areas. Okay. But we have discussed that states by themselves cannot declare any area as a scheduled area. Okay. They require the special provisions for this. Okay. That's why basically the proposal requires the union government's approval. Also, we call it as a central government. Unless the central government gives the approval, no area could be declared, could be defined under the term of scheduled area. All right. So this proposal awaits the union government's approval, which is required to make the formal notification, or you can say make the announcement in the official gazette of the country. Okay. To declare these areas as the scheduled areas. What would be the impact if this proposal will approve? If approved, this expansion would provide these areas with the special provisions, okay, and autonomy. And these two things would be given as per the 5th schedule. Why? Because the 6th schedule that provides for the ADCs, the Autonomous District Councils, only deals with the 6 states. Okay, sorry, 4 states, not 6. Only 4 states, and all of these states are northeastern states. Okay, it does not deal with the rest of the 10 states in India. Okay, only the 5th schedule deals with. So Kerala is north and northeastern state. Okay, that's why Kerala would be deal under the 5th schedule. Okay, so the special provisions and the autonomy would be granted to these areas if they approve to be declared as a scheduled areas under the 5th schedule. And this is aimed at promoting the welfare and the development of STs communities in the state of Kerala. Okay. Thereafter, if we move forward, then we know that we have started the criteria for identification of the scheduled areas. Like on what basis we could declare any area as a scheduled area. There must be some criteria, right? So basically the first criteria that we have seen under this is the significant tribal population. Significant tribal population. Okay. Under this, we have seen the first thing, that is the primary criterion. What does it mean? It means that basically whenever the state government or the central government wants to declare any area as a scheduled area, so the first thing they are going to look after is the significant population. Okay. Like we know, the governance and the administration of the scheduled areas is special in comparison with the normal areas, right? Is special in comparison with the normal areas. Okay. So if any area is to be the scheduled area, and scheduled area is making, you can say, it's basically making for the welfare of the tribal people. So unless it's having the significant population of the tribals, and if you declare it as a scheduled area, does it make any sense? No, clearly no, right? That's why the first check that we will follow in pursuance of declaring the area as a scheduled area is the having of significant population of the scheduled tribes. If any region is having the significant population, then we will call it as a scheduled tribes or the scheduled area. Thereafter, we have seen the percentage requirement. So basically, when we decided to declare any area as a scheduled area only after confirming the significant population presence in that area, and that population should be of the scheduled tribes. The another thing that comes in front of us was that on which basis that will be decided. On which basis we will say that that area is having the significant population and this area is not. So basically, to maintain the uniformity in it, basically the Bhuria Commission came into the picture. The Bhuria Commission came into the picture and they recommended to consider any area under the scheduled area if it is having the population percentage of tribals in the total population as 40% or more. Okay, it means if any area is having the population and under this population composition, at least 40% of the population is more than the population of tribe people, then that area will be declared as a scheduled area according to the 1951 census as scheduled areas. Okay, so these all are the things that we have covered in the previous lecture. I hope that you have revised the previous lecture before you come for this lecture. Again, I'm reminding you the same. All right, so now it's the time to let's move forward. After this, the second criteria is the compactness and reasonable size. Compactness and reasonable size. Okay. First thing that we could see here is the geographical considerations. Scheduled areas expected to be geographically compact and of reasonable size. What we have seen here, that there are two things mentioned. First is geographically compact. Second is reasonable size. Okay, why? Because if we talk about the scheduled areas and the tribal areas, so since the starting of this series, we have been saying that the administration, the governance of the scheduled areas and the tribal areas will be on the different lines when we compare it with the normal areas. Okay, it means that we will give some autonomy to the tribal people to making their own laws, okay, to make their own customs and follow them by their own practice. All right, and there will be a less, or you can say almost negligible interference by the state machineries. Okay, so suppose if there is any area that is not geographically compact and not of the reasonable size, then what problems you will face? First, geographical compact means that at least the boundaries would be clearly defined. Okay, so we can say that this area is having the, you can say the scheduled area. For example, if there is state A and there is state B, how many states are there? Two states are there. Okay, both of the boundaries are touching. State A boundary touches with B, state B boundary touches with A. Then what happened? State A decided to declare an area as a scheduled area, and that area is basically, you can say, situated on the side, on the boundary that is basically touching the boundary of state B. Okay, so if the area is not compact and if the area is overlapping with the boundaries of state B, then what do you think? What will happen? Is it possible that the provisions that the state A will make for the scheduled area, they decided these provisions would be, you can say, implemented effectively? No. Why? Because some portion of that area is overlapping with the boundaries of state B, and the state B is the different administrative units. So whatsoever the provisions, whatsoever things state A will make, these are not applicable in the state B. Okay. Similarly, we could reverse the case. Instead of state A, the state B was the one that was planning for the same. Okay. The state B wanted to declare an area as a scheduled area and govern the area with the special provisions in respect of protecting the interests of the tribals. But the area that the state B had chosen, that area is basically overlapping with the boundaries of state A. Or you can say not compact, but a broad area. Okay. So what will happen? That will generate a bone of contention between the state A's administration and the state B's administration. Even the tribals will suffer. Why? Because half of them would be under the administrative control of the state B. So whatsoever provisions the state B will make for them, they could easily use these provisions. But half of them are in that area that is overlapping with the state B boundary. All right. Then whatsoever provision the state B will make for them, these provisions are not eligible for them because administratively they are lying on the state A. Okay. That's why the geographically compact is necessary. It means any area that is going to be declared as a scheduled area, that area's boundaries must be clearly defined. Okay. They should not be overlapping. They not should be overspreading. Okay. So that the provisions and the demarcations could be done easily. Second is the reasonable size. Reasonable size means, like if we talk about welfare of the tribal peoples, if we talk about it. Okay. So basically that is also requires the funding and also requires the, you can say the workforce that will work for them. All right. So if the size is too large, not reasonable, so in administration of that particular area, that will generate a many concerns in front of the state administration. Why? Because first, the funds will be short. Second, the administrative officers will be in shortage. Okay. That's why scheduled areas are perfectly expected to be geographically compact. Boundaries should be well defined. Reasonable size so the administration could be ensured easily. Okay. And these two things will ensure the viability as the administrative entities. Like if that area become the scheduled area, that will become a different administrative entity, or you can say the special administrative entity within the same state. Okay. Second provision under the compactness and the reasonable size is ease of administration. Is ease of administration. What does it mean? It means compactness and the reasonable size facilitate the effective administration and governance of these areas. How? Let us take that example that we had just taken. Okay. State A and state B, though two states are there, both boundaries are overlapping or touching with each other. Not overlapping basically, but touching with each other. All right. Then what will happen? If state A had chosen the area to be declared as a scheduled area, but this time instead of overlapping with the boundaries of state B, that area is in the compact form. Then whatsoever provisions the state A will make for that area, these provisions will directly apply in the state A or in that area, right? So what do you think? Administration in this phase is easy or in that phase of easy when the areas were overlapping? Of course, in the second phase when the area was compact. Why? Because if the area was overlapping and if the state A wants to have the special administration on that declared area, that is quite impossible or not possible. Why? Because the provisions of state A is not applicable in state B. Even if we reverse the conditions will be the same. Whatsoever provisions that state B will make for the areas, these provisions are not applicable to the overlapping area with the boundary A, right? So compactness is necessary. The second thing that we could see here, is of the reasonable size. Okay, of the reasonable size. So basically, if the area is of the reasonable size, it means that the population would be well defined, the resources would be well defined, and as per the reasonability of the size of that area, the funding, the workforce, and other perspectives would be defined easily. That's are more over or more important for the effective administration and the effective governance of these areas. Okay, so these two are the main provisions under the compactness and reasonable size. That is an criteria for identification of area as a scheduled area. Now, if we move forward, then the second one under the criteria for identification of scheduled areas is this one. But before this, let me ask you a question. What is that question? Like, if we're talking about the schedule and the tribal areas, if this is our topic and this is what we are discussing, then the question is, in India, there is one tribe that is still, you can say, not in the contact of the mainstream. Or you can say, India is having the isolated tribe. What is the name of that tribe? Okay, this is going to be the question that I'm going to ask you. To answer this, 30 seconds you will have to think and answer. Time starts now. Ten seconds have been completed. Last 20s are remaining. All right. Last 10 seconds. Okay, the time's up. So the correct answer is Sentinelese. Sentinelese is the tribe that is still isolated. Okay. The Sentinelese tribe lives on the Sentinelese Island. That is the part of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Or you can say Andaman Nicobar group of islands. Alright. And it is believed that since last 50,000 years, they have been untouched and being isolated. What I'm saying? Since last 50,000 years, they have been untouched and isolated. Okay. So Sentinelese is the answer. All right. So if we talk about the, you can say the Andaman Nicobar Islands, then total how many islands are in this group? This is going to be a next question. Okay. Total how many islands are there which forms this group? To answer this, 30 seconds you will be have. Okay. And your time is going to start now. Just think about it. Alright, the 10 seconds have been passed. Last 20s are remaining. Last 10 seconds are there. Alright, the time's up. So there are total 502 islands in the group of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Got it? The next question is also relevant from that field. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands are separated by which? This is the next question I'm repeating. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands are basically separated by which? To answer this, 30 seconds you will have. Okay. And your time is going to be start now. 10 seconds have been passed off. Last 20 are remaining. Last 10 seconds. All right. Time is over. The correct answer is 10-degree channel. Okay. So the 10-degree channel basically you can say separates the Andaman Nicobar Islands like South Andaman with the Little Nicobar. Okay. So these are some important facts and figures that I have shared with you. Now the next is the viability as an administrative entity. Like in the previous slide, we have seen that if any area is to be declared as a schedule area, then that should be geographically compact. First thing, okay. Then of the reasonable size. These two things we have seen. First is geographically compact. Second is of the reasonable size. All right. Then only that could be declared as an viability as an administrative entity. Okay. So how and why it is known as the viability as an administrative entity? Like what is the administrative entity in this respect? That is what we are going to see. Okay. The first is the administrative constitution. Okay. The area should be viable as an administrative entity. Should be viable as an administrative entity. Okay. Capable of sustaining the governance and development activities. Okay. It means that suppose if any area is going to be the schedule area, and we know the schedule area will have the different concept of governance and the administration in comparison with the rest of the other areas. Okay. So it means that it is going to be having the special governance system. Okay. Special administration and different types of development activities would be there, and these activities will be there accordingly the tribal population welfare that is living over there. Okay, that is the thing. So basically here we check first is the capability of sustaining the governance. Like you can say, if we make any area as an schedule area, for example, there is a state A. The state A declared the XYZ area as the scheduled area. Okay. So the first concern is that the special governance system that would be provided to it. Okay. Is this area sufficient, or is this governance is sufficient to handle the pressure, or the governance of this XYZ area is sustaining in nature or not? Why? Because when the special kind of provisions provided in governance of the schedule and the tribal areas, basically, as I have told you, the state interferes on bare minimum, almost negligible. The state will not interfere in the matters. So if the governance system that has been provided with the autonomy and all, this governance system is not sustainable, then what will happen? The aim behind declaring any area as in scheduled and tribal areas, that aim will be vanished. Okay. And the development activities that were scheduled to be carried out, these activities will not be easily carried out. Why? Because of the unsuitability of the governance system that has been provided. Okay. Thereafter, the infrastructure and the resources. So the viability is assessed based on the availability of the infrastructure, the resources, the capacity to provide the essential services to the population. Like if any area is to be declared as a schedule area and the sustainability of the governance is to be checked, then the first check would be on the infrastructure. What kind of infrastructure the area is having? Is this infrastructure sufficient? to look after the tribal and scheduled people on the autonomous basis. What are the resources available there? Are these resources enough to run the area by its own? What is the capacity the governance will have in order to provide the essential services to the population that will be living over there? Okay, so these kind of things basically taken into the consideration when any area is declared to be a viable as an administrative entity. Okay, that's the thing. So students, basically in this lecture, we have finished till here. In the next lecture, we would continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all of we have discussed in this lecture. Be ready for the other lecture. So with this note, let's end this lecture and thank you.